In this episode, guys, we're going to be talking about what it takes to design and create a computer game today and to bring it out on a major game store. So stick with us.
Let me explain. Here it goes. A is for ambition. Be what I wanna be. See past the situation that's in front of me. Doubt is an enemy.
So we're going to talk about launching a game in 2021, and we're here with the perfect person here today, Kate, who's just launched her game, Behind the Beyond, on Steam. Now, Kate, I just wanted to ask you, what brought you into game development? What made you interested in computer game programming?
This has been a long time dream of mine, but for some reason, for historical reasons, I drifted from this purpose into like software, like business software stuff.
Sure.
And at some point, I just I get bored.
Well, you gotta pay the bills, right?
Well, yeah, yeah, but yeah, I thought that this could be more fun, and because this way, because I'm an indie, I can do basically whatever I want, so I don't exactly have clients that I need to make happy, except the players, of course. But it's like, if I have an idea for a game, then I can make it however I see fit, and I don't have to, you know what I mean.
No, I know. You don't have a boss.
Someone else's image.
You just gotta make sure you meet the market. As long as people like your games and play your games and willing to play them. So I'm guessing you had games from when you were a childhood, you know, that you must have played if you've had this aspiration so long. What were those games?
There are loads. Luckily, well, I've always been a gamer, and luckily my dad is also a casual gamer, but a gamer still. So back in the day, we played loads of, like, he played Half-Life, and we watched as kids, but we played a lot of Need for Speed. We played obviously a lot of point and clicks, because we are making a point and click game at the moment.
Is there any particular point and click game that stands out?
Well, my favorites are the Monkey Island series and Grim Fandango.
Grim Fandango.
Yeah.
So, for all those people out there, what do you think are the most important skills for people to learn who want to become game creators?
Well, it depends if you want to be an indie per se, or you want to work for a big company. Because if you're an indie, then you probably have to know a lot of stuff. So, like in this project, I'm doing programming, but I'm also doing art, and because we have a couple of more people who are working on the project, I also have to manage the project, and I'm doing marketing, and so I'm doing basically everything a tiny bit. So if you want to be an indie, you kind of have to get into everything a little bit. But if you want to work for a big company, then you have to you can probably specialize into one field, and don't have to deal with the rest.
So I guess you've almost had to become a little bit of a small business when you're being an indie developer compared to a single function in a big company. So tell us about the creative process you go through when you're thinking about a new game idea or developing a game.
Well, usually I just start with a one sentence idea, like, wouldn't it be fun to have a game like this and this? Or did anyone ever make a game with this story or this feature or something like that? And then we kind of brainstorm from there. As what sort of genre would it fit in? What new things we could add in terms of gameplay or visuals, or really just whatever comes in mind. So this one, because this game, Behind the Beyond, the original was made for a game jam. So there was there's a game jam called Adventure Jam, or now I think it's called Adventure X Jam, and so we had 2 weeks to come up with a completely new adventure game from scratch, kinda, and we had to finish it in 2 weeks. And there was a whole contest, and there was a jury, and there were popularity contests and whatever. And so we were thinking, okay, so how could we make an adventure game that's original, that stands out from the crowd? And that's basically why we actually chose the subject for the game, because we thought that not many people are familiar
You
with
didn't
these
just
same
go with
stories.
pirates like everybody else.
Yeah.
So I know that in a point and click adventure game like you've made, there's a lot of dialogue choices and there's a lot of script, because a player could, go down different sort of script choices and you might not even discover some of the script. How did you use an existing script engine? Like I know LucasArts used Scum, or how did you go about solving that problem?
First, because we only had 2 weeks, we opted to use an existing tool. So there was another indie team who made a very successful visual novel type of game. So it's basically then their game is just it's like reading a book, but then you have to pick from sometimes you have to pick from the options, like what do you want to say to this character, or what do you want to do, but it's all text based with some nice pictures in the background. But because it had all of this kind of this branching thing, so if you want to go this, then something else will happen, or if you go that way, then something else will happen. And we started using that. It's called Ink. And at the time it was okay for the game jam because we were rushing to finish it, and it was there. We didn't have to write our own engine. But after that we wanted to have characters who are having a conversation in parallel. So that we thought that the main idea would be that you have the main character in sort of, let's say, the foreground, and you're speaking to another character, and then in background somewhere there's another guy, and he's like we have a gingerbread salesman, and he's just there, and by default he's non-stop trying to sell gingerbread. So he's kind of annoying because he's just non-stop talking about gingerbread and trying to sell it. And then if you walk past and start talking with someone else in the same scene, then you would have to have both conversations running at the same time, and Ink at the time couldn't deal with that.
Right.
So we opted to, after the game jam, when we said, okay, now we have time to sit down and think things through, then we decided that we should write our own, because then we can basically do whatever we want, and that's what we did.
Awesome. So you've got those extra features in there in your own engine.
Yeah.
So I know there's indie games, and then there's obviously big budget titles like the latest Gears of War or Forza 5, whatever. What do you think matters most going forward with video games, story or graphics?
It's actually both, because I think definitely, even if it's an indie or if it's a AAA game, players will come for the graphics, because that's the first thing that they encounter. And
Yeah.
if you can't grab their attention with the graphics, they're not going to check out your game, but they will stay for the story. So if your game is not good, then they're not gonna play it. So it's both.
So I guess if you don't have those good graphics, you can't make that appealing thumbnail and get them to click on it in the first place.
Yeah.
So I know you made a point and click game, which is traditionally mouse based, obviously, for a PC. Did you have any kind of touch implementation so that people maybe on a tablet or a Windows, even a PC with the touch screen, could use touch to play the game?
We didn't actually do anything for touchscreen. You can in theory kind of play it, because we tried it on a tablet, so it does kind of works. Obviously you can't use the key commands, but if you have a tablet it kind of works, but it's not touch friendly, because there's no hover in touch, and we are relying on that. Sometimes also you don't have the buttons, and we have a few things that come up if you press the buttons on a keyboard. If you want to release the game for phone, then you have the screen size problem, because if you have tiny buttons, then the players can't click them. So
True.
there's another hurdle. And then we haven't even talked about controllers, because for that we would have to kind of rewrite the walking mechanism a bit if we want to add controller support, which we don't have now, but we might add it later. Because now because it's point and click, so you click somewhere and then the guy, your main guy, is looking at the floor, figuring out how to get to that point, and then he just walks there. But if you have a controller, then you can't click anywhere, so you have to press the stick, and then we have to make the character walk that way until he hits a wall. So there's a bit of a difference in the logic.
So there's a lot of challenges making it work on these different control systems, the controller and the touchscreen.
Yeah.
Do you have any plans to make it work on these systems?
Later, probably later.
I suppose you'd need to do that before you launched it on other game stores that require touch or require a controller. So how did you find launching the game on Steam? Was it smooth sailing, or was there a lot of hurdles to get over?
Well, after we had some help from a friend who already done it, so with his help, it wasn't that much of a pain. On Steam, the process is a bit complicated. I have heard people struggling with finding the correct configuration and understanding the whole system as how it works. But once you understood the main gist of it, then it's fine. It's easy. You just have your script ready, and then when you have your build and you run the script, and it's basically all done. So you don't really have to do much. It's all in the config.
Now, I know you're a girl gamer and a programmer, and a lot of people think, it's much more popular with guys to be a programmer or a gamer. If you're developing a game that you want to be popular with a male and female audience, especially the female part, what kind of things do you think you should consider?
Well, again, it depends on the genre, but I'm gonna stick to our story-rich part of the genre. So what we are doing, because mainly we have our main character is a guy, so we pay attention. Well, it's not not in the demo, but in the full game. We pay a lot of attention to have like meaningful female characters in there, because the whole thing is story driven. So the main part of the game is that you get to talk to the characters, and then you get to know all their stories and just know their whole character.
The background, a bit like a novel.
Yeah,
really.
their background and their views and everything. So traditionally in fairy tales and in folk tales, the girls are princesses and they're damsels in distress, and they're stuck in the castle or taken away by dragons or things like that, and they're basically just the reward for the guy who was heroic and did all the challenges, and
Sure.
then in the end they get the girl, and that's it. So they just basically eye candy and the reward. So we aim to have a better, more meaningful, deeper story